What would you do if one morning you woke up to find your entire life under attack? The home you built with your own hands, the garden you planted with the love of your life, suddenly declared an eyesore by a powerful, petty neighbor who decided you don't belong. This isn't fiction. This actually happened, and it brought an entire town to a standstill for exactly 72 hours. Marcus had lived quietly by the lake for over 40 years. He wasn't rich, he wasn't loud, he wasn't a problem. But overnight he became public enemy hottie one you to one woman Karen. She was the new president of the HOA, the neighborhood's homeowner association. Armed with rules, fines, and a phone always set to livestream, she launched a personal crusade. Every day she filmed. Every night she riled up her followers. And a countdown clock ticked ominously toward Marcus's supposed eviction. Each morning, Marcus woke up to find new violation notices. On his door, his truck, even his trash cans. Each night, he saw Karen's phone light blinking through the bushes, while strangers online called him names he never imagined hearing. To the world, he looked like a poor, lonely old man. Too weak to fight back. Powerless against a system built to silence people like him. But what no one realized, not even Karen, was that Marcus was no ordinary man, and the cabin she wanted to tear down. It sat on land that Marcus's family had owned for generations. In fact, he didn't just live in the neighborhood. He owned it, all of it. And when the truth came out, the internet exploded. Some called him the final boss of small towns. Others said it was the greatest plot twist of 2025. But will you stay long enough to hear the full story? From the moment they called him a squatter, to the second an entire town had to bow their heads in shame. If you're ready, take a breath. Because this story starts now. Karen and the 72-hour countdown war. Marcus was never the kind of man who wanted attention. He lived alone in an old wooden cabin by the lake, where every morning he made himself a cup of coffee and watched the mist drift across the water, just like he and his wife, Sarah, had done for nearly 40 years. Sarah had passed away a few years ago. But for Marcus, she was still there, in the little garden she loved, in the half-finished mystery novels on the porch table, in the wind that whispered through the trees every dawn. Everything was peaceful, until Karen arrived. She wasn't the type of neighbor you casually greet at the mailbox. No, Karen was the newly elected president of the neighborhood HOA, Homeowners Association. And she came with one mission: clean up the area, starting with Marcus's cabin. With her perfectly curled blonde hair, piercing voice, and flashy pink Mercedes, Karen didn't need to be liked, she needed to be in control. And Marcus, with his peeling paint, weathered wooden sign that read, "The Whitfields," and the wild tomato vines creeping up the fence, was an offense to her idea of order. Less than 24 hours after the first OA meeting she hosted, Marcus received 5 violation notices. Visual pollution, overgrown vegetation, improper waste disposal. But that was just the beginning. Karen started live streaming. Day 1 of Operation Save the Lake from this total eyesore. She chirped, panning her phone across Marcus's garden like she was filming a documentary on urban decay. She posted hashtags like "Eyesore Elimination," "Save the Lake Fest," "Squat Alert." People started watching. Some cheered her on. Others felt uneasy watching an old man with no social media get publicly shamed. But the pressure mounted. Day 2, Marcus found violation slips not only on his door but on his mailbox, his truck windshield, even his garbage can lids. Day 3, he spotted a tiny hidden camera wedged between fence boards. That evening, on Karen's livestream, a digital countdown timer appeared on screens: 72 hours until we clean up this community. Marcus sat on his porch, fingers clenched around a cup of cold coffee. He had never feared losing his home before. But now he felt something deeper being threatened: memories, history, and the love of a woman who built this place with him. Walt, his longtime friend, sat next to him, watching the countdown tick by on Karen's stream. "What are you gonna do?" Walt asked softly. Marcus didn't answer right away. He stared out across the lake, seeing Sarah's silhouette in the early mist, hearing her laugh echo from somewhere deep in his mind. Then he spoke, low, calm, with a quiet fire in his voice. "Maybe it's time Karen finds out who she's really messing with. If you've ever lived in a small town, you know one thing for sure: rumors travel faster than radio signals." And ever since Karen launched her neighborhood cleansing campaign, Marcus's name had gone from being just a quiet old man by the lake to the eyesore of Lakeside, the squatter, a threat to HOA harmony. Karen went live every morning at exactly 6 a.m., just as Marcus brewed his coffee, to document the disaster zone that was his cabin. She panned her phone across the faded wooden fence, the weather-worn porch swing Sarah used to sit on, and the tilted, "The Whitfields" sign at the gate, editing the footage with eerie music and dramatic captions like it was some true crime expose. By day 4, she arrived not alone, but with an entire squad of self-appointed HOA volunteers, which, in truth, was just her inner circle of gossip-loving friends. They came equipped with measuring tapes, clipboards, latex gloves, and a GoPro to livestream what she called an emergency on-site audit of suspected squatter property. Marcus stood still on his porch, quietly holding his coffee, eyes on a worn paperback mystery novel. He didn't say a word. But he heard everything. "They're trying to frame me as an intruder on the land I've lived on for 40 years. He murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Walt, his longtime friend and daily breakfast companion, glanced up from peeling an apple. His gaze was sharper than usual. "This ain't just Karen wanting a tidier street," he muttered. "This smells like a setup." Then he told Marcus what he'd overheard earlier that morning at the diner. A slick-looking lawyer, loud and cocky, was bragging to a real estate agent over eggs and coffee. "That cabin'll be gone by Friday. The old man's deed is locked in a bank 3 hours away. Filed the motion Wednesday afternoon. No way he can get there before the deadline. By Monday, that land is ours." Marcus's grip on the mug tightened. This wasn't about community aesthetics. This was legal ambush, carefully calculated to force Marcus out before he could even respond. Not because he broke rules, but because his land stood in the way of someone else's development plans. Marcus knew what they didn't. This wasn't just some random plot of land. It had history. His history. It was part of the Whitfield Family Trust, a conservation legacy dating back to his great-grandfather. But the original deed, locked away in a vault at First National Bank's Central Branch, closed on weekends. Exactly as that lawyer had said. Karen had chosen her moment perfectly, filing late Wednesday, leaving only Thursday and Friday, just 2 business days, to prove ownership before a court-ordered eviction could go through. A masterstroke of cruelty. Cold, clean, legal. That night, Marcus sat on the porch, the lake reflecting the fading light. The weight of it all pressed on him. Not just the fear of losing a roof over his head, but the deeper ache of seeing memories erased. Sarah's laughter by the garden, the scent of her homemade cinnamon tea. The lake they'd watched every sunrise for decades. He did something he rarely did. He called his daughter, Emma, in New York. She picked up after 2 rings, surprised. "Dad, you okay? You never call during work hours." He swallowed hard. "You remember the fairy garden down by the dock? The summer you turned 10. A breath caught in her throat. "Of course. Mom said fairies needed lakeside homes to keep the fish happy. We spent weeks collecting shells. Acorn bathtubs. She made me promise to protect it. Said it kept the lake healthy." There was a long pause, both lost in memory. "She was right," Marcus said quietly. "She always was." "Dad, what's happening?" "They're trying to erase her," he said, voice cracking. "Erase everything we built here." And Emma was silent for a beat. Then came her voice. Fierce, determined, filled with the same fire Sarah once had. "Don't you dare give up. You're the strongest man I know. You held Mom's hand through 18 months of chemo. You built that dock. You kept this place alive. If Karen thinks she can bully you off Mom's land, she's about to learn the fight of her life." Marcus looked out at the still water. He saw Sarah in the fog, heard her voice in the trees. He whispered, more to himself than to Emma, "It's time Karen finds out who she's really messing with." A Friday morning. Rain drizzled gently across the lake, soft and cold. Like nature itself had sensed something was coming. Marcus sat on his porch, staring at the countdown timer still live on Karen's channel. The final seconds ticked by like a drumbeat of doom. Ode of 110 then, the sound of engines echoed through the trees. A convoy of cars rolled in like a slow, moving army. Leading the charge, Karen's bubblegum, pink Mercedes, glistening even in the gray mist. Behind her, Harrison's budget sedan, nervous and twitchy. A black SUV followed, carrying 2 hired security guards in cheap tactical gear. And last, like villagers gathering to witness a public hanging, came dozens of curious neighbors. Karen stepped out of her car as if descending from a royal chariot. Dressed in a pristine white dress, makeup flawless despite the drizzle, she raised a portable speaker and a phone on AM tripod. 10:00 AM sharp. She announced triumphantly, her voice cutting through the fog. "The deadline is passed." She turned dramatically to Marcus's cabin. "No papers. No proof. You're a squatter. I'm calling the police." Marcus stood on his porch, silent and unmoving. Behind the window, Sarah's old photograph was faintly visible, watching, just as she always had. Karen hit go live. The chat immediately exploded. "Welcome back, followers. We're about to remove an illegal trespasser from our community. This is justice in real time." Comments scrolled wildly. "This can't be legal. Wet, isn't this just an old man's home? She's seriously calling the cops over a cabin." But Karen was already dialing 911, her voice trembling. Only this time, it was pure theater. "Yes, this is Karen at 47 Lakeshore Drive. I feel threatened. He refuses to leave HOA property. He might have a weapon." A blatant lie. But Karen knew how to weaponize the system. Within 10 minutes, 2 police cruisers arrived with lights flashing. 4 officers stepped out, led by Chief Johnson, a tall man with weathered hands and patient eyes. He had served this community for over 20 years. Karen rushed toward him, waving her stack of forged documents like a victory flag. This man had 72 hours. He refused to comply. He's breaking the law. Remove him. The Chief Johnson flipped through the paperwork, frowning at the questionable signatures and odd formatting. He turned to Marcus. Mr. Whitfield, is it true you can't produce ownership papers today? Marcus stood still. His hand shook slightly, but his voice was calm. I've lived here 40 years. My wife died in that bedroom. My father built that dock. The documents are in a safety deposit box, 3 hours from here. And she, he pointed calmly at Karen, knew that when she filed the motion. Karen scoffed with theatrical disgust. Always an excuse. Just remove him already. Chief, the crowd murmured, unsure. A few took out their phones to record. Johnson sighed. Marcus, I don't want to do this. But according to what I've got here. He trailed off as Marcus turned toward the window. There, sitting next to Sarah's picture, was a photograph of Thomas Whitfield, his great-grandfather. On the back a name and a number. 1920 Whitfield Law. A voice echoed in Marcus's mind. Walt's voice from last night. Your daddy always kept an ace up his sleeve. Marcus stepped forward slowly, his voice low and firm. Chief, before you do anything, would you make a phone call? On the back of that photo is the number for our family law firm. I think you'll want to hear what they have to say. Karen screamed. Are you kidding me? This is just another delay tactic. But Chief Johnson, fair, methodical, nodded once. One call. Marcus deserves that much. He dialed the number on speaker. Whitfield Law, established 1870. A state division. How may I help you? The crowd fell silent. Even Karen froze, uncertain for the first time. Chief Johnson cleared his throat. This is Chief Johnson from Lakeside. I need to verify ownership of a cabin located on the edge of Lake Whitfield. Marcus Whitfield claims it is under a family trust. One moment, Chief. The voice replied. Pulling up the Whitfield Land Trust records now. Everyone leaned in. Even Harrison looked queasy. Marcus didn't move. He didn't have to. Because the next thing they heard would shake the entire town. The lawyer's voice came clearly over the speakerphone, cutting through the heavy silence. The Whitfield Land Trust encompasses over 47,000 acres, including all the waterfront properties and much of the surrounding land that now forms Lakeside community. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Karen's face paled. Harrison swallowed hard. Even the neighbors looked stunned. The trust was established in 1920 by Thomas Whitfield, Marcus's great-grandfather. The lawyer continued. It was created with a perpetual protection covenant, ensuring this land can never be developed or sold without explicit family approval. This includes all HOA properties within these boundaries. The map Chief Johnson projected onto his laptop screen showed a glowing red zone expanding from Marcus's cabin, swallowing up the entire neighborhood, roads, community buildings. Even Karen's expensive pink Mercedes parked right on Marcus's land. Karen's hands began to tremble. She tried to speak but words failed her. Patricia, sorry. Karen, do you realize this means the HOA has no legal authority over this land? No right to levy fines, issue violations, or demand evictions without written consent from the Whitfield family. The lawyer's voice was calm but firm. And our records show that such permission was never granted. Murmurs grew into whispers. Some neighbors exchanged shocked looks, others pulled out their phones, checking the map again and again. Marcus felt a strange calm settle over him. 40 years of quiet endurance had led to this moment. Karen's knees buckled and she collapsed into the muddy grass. No more theatrics, no more fake tears. Just stunned silence. Harrison dropped to his knees beside her, helpless. David, one of the neighbors, held up his phone, streaming live for thousands to see. Comments exploded. No way, this is insane. Plot twist of the century. Karen just fainted. This is better than Netflix. Chief Johnson glanced at Marcus with a hint of a smile. Why didn't you say anything sooner? You could have stopped this from happening. Marcus looked toward Sarah's photo and back at the crowd. I had to let her reveal who she really was first. I needed proof. Not just attitude. A murmur of understanding swept through the audience. But the story wasn't over yet. Marcus slowly pulled his phone from his coat pocket, his hands still trembling slightly after days of tension. He unlocked the screen and methodically scrolled through months of carefully gathered evidence. Emails, secret recordings of Karen's meetings, messages detailing bribes to officials, plans to destroy protected forest, and threats to neighbors who opposed her. Every piece was crystal clear, undeniable proof. His voice was calm but heavy with truth. I've been watching her from the very start. Posing as a delivery driver, I recorded every dark plan she made. Bribing 3 officials to fast-track permits, threatening residents, and scheming to clear protected land. Chief Johnson stood nearby, his eyes fixed intently on the evidence Marcus presented. The tension in the air was suffocating. Karen tried to interrupt, to defend herself, but the overwhelming weight of the evidence crushed her protests. Forgery of documents, Chief Johnson stated slowly, his voice deep and authoritative. Bribery, conspiracy to destroy protected habitat, and misuse of emergency services. These are serious criminal charges, Karen. Karen's confidence crumbled. Her face drained of color, streaks of mascara mixed with mud running down her cheeks. She screamed in desperation, "I am the law! I have connections! I have money!" But her cries fell on deaf ears. Officers moved in quickly, handcuffing her as the stunned crowd erupted. Some cheering, others speechless at the shocking turn of events. Marcus stood silently on his porch, neither shouting nor gloating. He knew this was only the beginning of a long fight to protect the land and legacy of his family. But in that moment, justice had been served. Marcus Whitfield, the seemingly frail old man, had made the entire town bow in respect. 3 months after Karen's arrest, the town of Lakeside had transformed completely. The tension and fierce disputes were replaced by warmth and unity among the residents. David Rodriguez, who was elected HOA president after Karen, took the lead in organizing community barbecues and gatherings where neighbors met, shared stories, and rebuilt trust. Marcus, now in his 70s, frequently appeared at these events, embodying calm strength and resilience. People began to understand that the fight to protect the land wasn't just about legal papers. It was a battle for deeper values, memories, family, and love for nature. He made the decision to transfer the majority land to the Green Earth Foundation, ensuring it would never be developed or destroyed. The remaining acreage was deeded to the community with a firm promise: no commercial development, no resorts, only residential homes preserved as they were. Marcus often recalled the dream of his late wife Sarah, who once said, "Money comes and goes, but once you pave paradise, you can never get it back." That dream had now come true. One afternoon, Tom Walsh, a man who had once held a protest sign against Marcus under Karen's influence, knocked on his cabin door. With regret in his eyes, Tom apologized for staying silent during Karen's reign and vowed to stand up for the community from then on. Marcus didn't hold grudges. He simply said gently, "Standing up to bullies isn't easy, but silence only makes them stronger. Even if your voice shakes, it deserves to be heard." Marcus's story became an inspiration for all of Lakeside. From a man branded a squatter, he rose to become a symbol of perseverance, love, and protection of the natural world. Together, the community looked forward to a future filled with hope, where children's laughter echoed by the lake, and under green trees would be a daily celebration of life. Under the soft glow of sunset, as the sun dipped behind distant mountains, Marcus sat quietly on his porch, gazing out over the calm lake. A gentle breeze carried the sweet scent of the flowers in Sarah's beloved garden. Everything remained as it was, peaceful and beautiful, as if the happy days they shared were still alive beside him. He smiled with a light heart, knowing this place was protected, not just for himself, but for generations to come. The memories of Sarah, their love, and the life they built together were no longer threatened by greed or injustice. Marcus understood that life isn't always fair, but how we stand up and protect what matters is what truly gives life meaning. He hoped his story would inspire others to find their voice, to defend their homes and the values they hold dear. And above all, he wished peace to spread throughout Lakeside, where every morning would still be greeted by birdsong, gentle waves, and the laughter of loved ones. The end was not a conclusion, but a new beginning, full of hope, love, and community. In the end, this story delivers a powerful message about the importance of protecting the environment and the sacred value of community bonds. When each of us stands up and raises our voice, even the seemingly impossible can become reality. Marcus didn't just protect a piece of land, he preserved memories, love, and deep spiritual values built over a lifetime. His story reminds us that the most precious assets are not just property or buildings, but the connection, compassion, and shared responsibility we have for each other and the world around us. Let Marcus's unwavering journey inspire you to courageously stand up for what you cherish. Not only material things but also beliefs, values, and human kindness. Because only when we come together can stories of goodness continue and spread, creating a more sustainable world for future generations. This is the power of community and the resilience of the human spirit. Something no force can ever defeat. Don't hesitate to hit that like button to show your support and help this story reach even more people. Leave a comment right below. Share your thoughts about this story. What do you think about Marcus and Karen? Have you ever experienced or witnessed similar situations? Your comments matter because they build a connected community where we can learn from and empathize with each other. Don't forget to share this video with your friends, family, or anyone who needs a powerful dose of inspiration in their life. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button now, so you won't miss the heartfelt stories and meaningful lessons I'll be bringing to you next. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. Your support is the strength that keeps me telling these amazing stories. See you in the next videos.